Chris Payne from Euclid, Ohio, and you are listening to Barbecue Central.
Start the game! Let's go!
We'll do it live. Okay. Well, do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
So to get that perfect barbecue, you use wood. Are you sure it's safe? Whatever. We put the lighter fluid on, strike the match, and... Oh! Should we call the fire department? That might be a good idea.
And welcome to the really big Barbecue Central show. This is the show that talks about all things that are important to the world of barbecue and grilling. The show originating from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame city, Bomb City, USA, Cleveland, Ohio, the barbecue capital of the North Coast. I'm your program host, Greg Rempe. Happy to have you aboard here on your Tuesday evenings, the live fire fun and frivolity show. If you would like to get in contact with the show this evening, or you would like to follow the show during off-show hours, here's how you do all that.
You can get in touch with the show by sending an email to Greg at thebbqcentralshow.com. Follow us on all the social media channels at BBQ Central Show. And be sure to subscribe to the show podcast feed on your favorite podcast platform.
Anything else you want to find out about the show can be found at the main website, thebbqcentralshow.com. And here's what's happening in case you can get the newsletter coming up at about 12 minutes from now. He is a longtime sponsor of the show. He is a co-founder of one of the leading technology brands in the live fire space, and an overall great guy, friend o' mine, Ted Conrad from Fireboard. And finally, Fireboard has entered the fray of wireless remote thermometering. I think for the last many years, I have always ended each interview segment with Ted saying, when is the wireless thermometer coming? Why aren't you making a wireless thermometer? There's more and more coming to market. And June 16th of 2024, technically a few days ago, they have arrived into the wireless market. So we'll talk all about it, get the ins and outs, compare, contrast to what's existing out there in the marketplace, and give you all the information to make your best purchasing decisions. Then, 35 past the first hour, CreativeCookoutNews.com and his normal third Tuesday of the month regular guest, Wes Ryan. So as we're getting the breaking news from Ted Conrad in the previous segment to Wes, we will then turn around in Wes's segment and talk about what Ted just talked about. We'll talk about the segment of wireless thermometering in the live fire industry, where we might see it in the next handful of years. There's some other things we're going to be talking about as well. So Wes Wright to close out the first hour, and then we will move to the second hour. You might have seen a week, maybe a little more than a week ago, our 2023 Podgementary subject, one Joe Martinez, Smokin' Joe's Pit Barbecue, posting that Smokin' Joe's Pit Barbecue is now officially closed. What does that mean? I think I hear a boy crying wolf, or maybe he's not crying wolf at all. Maybe he's really closed. But as soon as I saw it, I started shooting out emails, and then I went completely off the radar with comms on anybody concerning what happened with Smokin' Joe's Pit Barbecue, and we will learn all about it. If it's for real, if it's semi for real, if you somehow felt pressured once again by YouTube viewers to make announcements, proclamations, and declarations of non-business operation, all will be revealed in the second hour. So that's how the show's laying out. Ted Conrad, Wes Wright in the first hour, and Joe Martinez in the second hour. Don't forget, you can follow me socially, Instagram, Twitter, the TikToks, Snapchats, and LinkedIn, all with the handle at BBQ Central Show. And of course, we say good evening to those of you watching the show tonight through one of our video streaming platforms. You can go to facebook.com/BBQ Central Show or twitter.com/BBQ Central Show, or watch on YouTube, which is youtube.com/@BBQ Central Show, where we have a new YouTube poll question of the week. And we're asking everybody this to include all guests. The griddle market will remain a hot one for consumers through the duration of 2024. And currently, 83% of you are saying, yes, you do believe that the griddle market will remain a hot one through the balance of the year. Results of the poll question last week. Did you watch either hot dog eating contest on July 4th? And 86%. That's funny because it was just 83%. 86% of you said no. You did not watch any hot dog eating contest, whether it was Joey Chestnut eating with the brave troops down in Fort Bliss, where he canned 57 hot dogs and buns in 5 minutes, and you did not watch the Major League Eating / Nathan's famous hot dog eating event taking place in Brooklyn, the standard or the prototypical one that you would usually watch, where a Pat Bertoletti took down 58 hot dogs and buns in 10 minutes. But I talked about that last week. So we'll start here tonight, and I know you want me to talk about it because I said that after last week, I was done talking about it, that being competitive hot dog eating, and of course, the very next day, something else happens in the sector of competitive eating, and you think I'm going to be talking about it, bringing you the latest updates and the latest controversy of the hot dog eating world. And if you think that, you are 100% wrong. Can I get a, oh yeah?
Hey, everybody, can I trouble you for a oh, yeah?
I'm not doing it. Tune in to Steve Ray's show as he breathlessly covers everything that is happening in the world of competitive eating from now until the foreseeable future. I believe his show is Steve Ray's Eat This. That's the name of the podcast. I might be off on that. Some of you might be hoping that I share my thoughts on the attempted assassination of former President Trump. I do have a take on that, which is unrelated to the shooting, actually. It's more of a commentary on where we are as a society of humans. But instead, I'm going in a completely different direction tonight. I cover the topic that is the biggest one on the show, which is, of course, the show itself. I'm specifically talking about the latest review that the show got on iTunes at the end of last week from someone who didn't even leave their name. Keyboard commandos at large, ranging through anonymity, the safety of anonymity. It reads the following way. Subject line, ridiculous. Rating, 1 star. And I quote, how can anyone listen to this? It is beyond me. The sound effects, the yelling, the screaming, it's all ridiculous. Stick to the subject. This left via Apple Podcast in the United States of America. Thank you for the review. Can I get a oh yeah?
Hey, everybody, can I trouble you for a oh yeah?
So good. I don't know even what to say. I'm doing the show live February 7th of 2008. I'm like 16 years in, 17 years in, 18 years in, if you count the 2 years of previous Just Podcast only before I started the live show. It's always had sound effects. I don't even know what you're talking about as far as the yelling is concerned. Nobody's yelling. Can we get a little bit passionate and heated about our particular opinions, especially in panel type situations like the embedded correspondence. Yeah. The screaming, nobody's ever screaming. Never. And I stick to the subject matter by and large. Do we deviate from time to time? Yes. Because if we only always talked about live fire, barbecue, and grilling, the show would have went the way that every other barbecue and grilling show has gone, which is the way of the dinosaur. Gone forever and ever, amen. But we will continue to change it up. And much to your chagrin, Mr. Macho, leaving me 1 star. Like, just send me a personal email and tell me you think the show sucks like the other 25 people do every week. Don't leave me a 1-star rating. That hurts my visibility on iTunes. It's like customer service. You hate the show, email me privately first. And then if I can't convince you to not do that, you just go ahead. I mean, you're going to do it anyway, right? You're not going to give me the opportunity to explain myself. You're just jumping in willy-nilly and then leaving me a subject line title of ridiculous and then the 1 star. How dare you? That might hurt my feelings. Oh, yeah. Say hello to the future of grilling with the patented thermostatic control technology brought to you by Winners Products on the Members Mark Series grills, the Pro Series. We have 2 modes. First up is barbecue mode or grilling mode. Your traditional grilling experience with variable temperatures, giving you control of each burner to adjust exactly how you want it on your terms. Or enter the game-changing and patented oven mode, or oven, depending on where you live. Simply set the thermostatic control dial to your desired temperature, and your grill transforms into a precise oven. The choice, like the black sheep would say, is yours. Members Mark Pro Series with thermostatic control now available at your local Sam's Club store and only your local Sam's Club store. So if you're not a member, become a member or steal your neighbor's membership card when they're not looking and go to Sam's Club and check out the Members Mark Grill. I think you're going to be very happy with what you see. The 4-burner does sell a little bit better than the 5-burner. It's all price point, right? But for sub $700, the 5-burner is the steal of the century right now. When I was talking with James Howe last week, as you remember, I said, I think this grill would be $1,800 or more if it had a different brand's badge on it. He said, I agree. It would. So, I'm urging you, if you're a Sam's Club member, to go through the live fire section where all the grills are sold and make sure you put an eyeball on the Members Mark Pro Series grills. And again, I just used it last night to cook up 5 chicken breasts. Perfect. Dials in the heat. I used regular grill mode, but I do use oven mode quite frequently, actually. You pick, you learn, you choose. Only at Sam's Club. We're back with Ted Conrad right after this. Stick around. Be right back.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Broadcasting live from the Barbecue Central Show studios in Cleveland, Ohio. You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
All right, welcome back to this portion of the show being brought to you by CookandPellets.com, your number 1 source for quality wood pellets for all your pellet-driven cookers. You visit CookandPellets.com and check out everything they have to offer for sale. And then when you're ready to buy, do something mind-boggling. Instead, go to Walmart.com or Lowe's.com or Amazon.com and purchase from there. Same great product, but Chris Becker, owner of Cookin' Pellets, says send people there better shipping rates than we can do at Cookin' Pellets. So I've given you all the information. You do what you want to do. By the way, Diane Me weighing in on the Facebooks. I don't think you yell and scream. You have an excellent voice. Thank you, Diane. So take that, whoever you are, in anonymity on Apple Podcast review, leaving me 1 star. My first guest tonight, one of the co-founders of Fireboard, longtime supporter of the show, which I certainly appreciate. You are most likely familiar with their products, which now include the Fireboard 2, the Fireboard 2 Drive, the Fireboard Pro, the Fireboard Spark, and the Fireboard Beacon, just to name a few. Tonight we're going to talk about a new item just recently announced into media, and I am happy to have him on the show to dig into it. Ted Conrad of Fireboard. Hey, Ted.
Hey, Greg. How are you?
Ted, before we get into new product talk and nonsense, we have a YouTube poll question of the week that we're asking everybody, and the question is this. Do you think the griddle market will remain a hot one for consumers through the balance of 2024, yes or no?
I'm a skeptic. I'll say no.
No. Oh, I'm sorry. That's the right one. You're agreeing with 25% of the voting public saying no, 75% saying that they believe it will continue to remain hot. Before we talk about the Pulse, which is the name of the new item, last time you were on, I think the time even before that, we had mentioned the Beacon, but then last time we talked about the release of the Beacon. How's it going for the Beacon right now?
The Beacon's great. This was the first year that we went to the restaurant show, which is May up in Chicago. And that was the first year that we've actually had the Beacon available for people to essentially buy it right there. And we don't really sell units at the show per se, but if they're interested in it, they could essentially buy it. We essentially took orders at the show, and we've had some really good discussions that have come from that and continue to come from that show. What the Beacon is something that it's just essentially Pule. You throw it in a walk-in fridge or freezer, and it just works. So it's a simple, super simple installation.
I have asked you about wireless thermometers coming from Fireboard for what seems like 5 years. Maybe it's longer than that. Maybe it's shorter than that. You had remained steadfast in the "it's not us yet" type of refrain. So with others coming to market, especially Combustion Inc. now, and then ThermalWorks is launching end of the month or so, did you feel in a way that your hand was forced now to bring something to market, or were you ready to go at this stage?
Well, the two things that made a big difference, just to be honest with you, Greg, I mean, like any product, it's taken some time. So we've been developing this, designing this, researching this for almost 2 years. And so we had been planning this for a while. Obviously, it's been more or less confidential. We've been doing all this work trying to get it ready. But the thing that became apparent, we've had so much reverse inquiry is sort of the term that I use, but we've had our customers that have come back and ask us, and we did a little video montage as our product announcement. And Alec on our team did a great job with it, but it pops up all the little comments and the questions and the emails that we've had. Customers are like, hey, what about a wireless probe? How about now? When's a wireless probe coming? You guys have to do this. And so really people were urging, and that was the first thing that I think kind of opened our eyes. Like, you know what? Customers want this. It makes, if the product works well. I think the second thing that really transformed, or I guess convinced us this, was when we did the low frequency, we call it G, which is short sub 1 gigahertz, did that for the Beacon. And as people hear, the Beacon, the sub 1 gigahertz is just to get you that extended range. And when we did that for the Beacon, I think the light kind of went off, and we're like, you could solve the range issues that Bluetooth has with these probes, because you put a probe inside of a metal case, it doesn't transmit very well, right? It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out. Yeah. And so you have to figure out how do you solve that. That was kind of the eye-opening thing, which was, if we use a lower frequency, then this could be a real product.
Nothing like having the dramatic product announcement and then this. Fireboard Pulse is the name of the product. If you want to check it out while we're talking, it's fireboard.com, and then I believe it's just /pulse, or if you just go to fireboard.com, it's right there on the lead. You don't even have to scroll to find it. Obviously, it's the brand new product that they're going to be launching here shortly, so the Fireboard Pulse is the name of it, fireboard.com. So let me back you up to sub 1G. I don't want to nerd out to the people that I can use the lingo and know what I'm talking about, but you were talking about how you learned something from sub 1G that you would be able to put into the Pulse.
Yeah, and sorry for that dropout there, but yeah, try to go through this real quick. I just mentioned the first thing was all the customers, that ask us to build this product, and then the second thing was this S1G, this sub 1 gigahertz, which is just this lower frequency, and the lower frequency gives you that longer range. And so I think the problem with putting this device inside of a metal box, if you will, if you call a cooker or grill or smoker a metal box, it's really hard to get much of a wireless signal outside of that. And so the light bulb really went off when we started looking at this S1G technology. We were like, good grief, if we can jam that technology into a wireless probe, we might actually have something that's pretty cool here. So that's been something we've been struggling with. I mean, it's been a little bit of an engineering problem. So it's been a couple years in the works.
I remember all the times I was asking you about a wireless probe. One of the things that you would constantly say is it's getting that technology all into one thing and then worrying about what kind of a gauge that you were going to need to get all that stuff in, not to mention the cost of potential replacement if something were to burn up or go haywire inside of there. So how were you able to package it in a way that you feel is both accommodating to the technology but also isn't leaving a 12 gauge bullet hole in the meat like some of the other stuff?
Well, the first thing I'd say is it's really hats off to the Fireboard team. I mean, the team led by Paul Skelton, he's our head of design, head of product design, and he has done an amazing job with the design elements of any design elements and also the mechanical elements to go into this product. And for those of you who are listening, you can't see what I'm holding up, but I'll be actually holding up the Pulse probe, and it's a chisel tip, and I guess chisel tip, it's basically a hexagon type of shape, and it's more flat than I guess it is a perfect hexagon, and it sort of has, again, for lack of a better word, it kind of looks like a chisel, so it gives you a really nice tip on the end. But what the trick with that is it sort of ends up making it thinner, but then you have a little bit of that width that can accommodate, the printed circuit board that gets slid down inside this tube. So it's a cool design element, but it's also functional in that's how we were able to fit some electronics inside that tube.
Give us the high level on the Pulse. What do we like about it? How is it set apart?
Yeah, the number one thing that sets it apart is to our knowledge, it's the world's first dual band wireless probe. So when I just mentioned before this S1G technology, which is the sub 1 gigahertz, it's essentially it's between 902 megahertz and 928 megahertz. For those radio geeks, I think it's called the ISM band. Anyway, I may not have that right, but anyway, so it's the low frequency combined with Bluetooth. So you have, and Bluetooth is 2.4 gigahertz. So the Bluetooth is cool because you still can use, in short range, you can use all the existing Fireboard products. I should say it, the Fireboard 2 and the Spark. The original Fireboard right now, we're not supporting the wireless probe yet. It's a possibility down the road. But right now, it's the Fireboard 2 and the Spark and all the Yoder controllers, the Yoder pellet smokers that have our technology integrated. It's just an over-the-air update. And those work too. So you get the the simplicity and the flexibility and the connectivity with Bluetooth, because those devices are all short range, right? I mean, you have the Fireboard sitting right next to your cooker, that works. And that's sort of like what everybody else has done with Bluetooth, with a Bluetooth repeater. But then you have, combined with that, you have this long capability with the S1G. So you have the best of both worlds. I think the design element, you can kind of, in a way, there's a ceramic end to this metal tube, and it's a little circle. So it sort of reminds you of the Fireboard logo in a way. Yeah. So it's kind of another cool design element. But there's actually an embedded ambient external sensor. So there's actually temperature that you'll get outside the meat with this sensor. And then you have the meat temperature, of course, and that's further down in this tube, which would be buried inside the meat. So I think you have everything that you need in a nice little package. It snaps onto a charger. The charger itself is rechargeable. So the charger, you would charge USB-C. You can have multiple probes kind of stacked on top of each other. So there's these cool magnets, and they stack on top of each other. There's some cool little things we've jammed in here. Like you can plug in one USB-C to recharge these chargers, and then because they're stacked, all the power flows through that stack. So you can charge like 10 of these things. They're all just stacked up together, which is kind of fun. And the magnets, it sticks on your refrigerator and all that stuff. So it's really a cool design. I besides for the product functioning really, really well, the design is it's just beautiful.
Let's talk about what customers really want to know that are interested in wireless stuff. Connection efficiency when the hood is down.
Well, like I mentioned, that's where this Fireboard Pulse really shines. So if you buy what we call an S1G antenna, and the S1G antenna will plug into Fireboard 2. So those people that already own a Fireboard 2, any of the Fireboard 2 series, which is the regular Fireboard 2, the Drive, or the Pro, they buy an antenna. We sell it really cheap. We almost kind of give it away, but it's $20. The antenna plugs into the Fireboard 2. Now, the Fireboard 2 can receive those 900 megahertz signals. And then you can have your Fireboard 2 in your house, anywhere, and you've got essentially a line of sight at 1,800 feet, which is what we've tested. If you've got the door closed, I'm going to derate that quite a bit. And it's going to depend on the situation, right? It depends what kind of cooker you have. Depends on if you're going through more brick walls or different types of walls. But you're going to have hundreds of feet to still have that range through that low frequency. So that really works well. And then the Bluetooth is, again, a great solution. If you're using the Drive, you already have your Fireboard sitting right there next to your grill.
Yep.
And it just works. You just pair it like any other Fireboard device, and off to the races.
So I'm going to give you an example I'm going to, let's say, use this weekend. I'm going to do a pork butt cook. I'm going to use Fireboard Drive on the Primo, and I put the thermometer in, and then because it's close, it's talking to each other, and then I'm at the grocery store 10 miles away. As long as I have cloud connectivity, I can still see my temperature and all that stuff. Or maybe I'm doing a rotisserie chicken in the Primo. Of course, you want to do that with wireless because you can't do it with wired. All that's fine, no problem.
Yep. Yeah, in that scenario, and I do think it's worth mentioning here, the scenario, or I guess the scenarios, plural, there's many different scenarios of how this thing connects. You can connect the low frequency, like I mentioned. You can connect Bluetooth. You could connect to actually direct to somebody's cell phone. So you have the Fireboard app on your mobile phone. It'll connect directly to that. You don't even have to have a Fireboard at all. Of course, that's sort of the worst experience, because if you're inside the house with your phone, range is pretty limited over Bluetooth to get outside. But the short answer to your question, Greg, in that scenario, your Fireboard is sitting right next to the Kamado cooker, and you're probably running the Drive. Your Fireboard connects Bluetooth Bluetooth Pulse. The Pulse those are one or many of those. And by the way, they're going to be color coded. They're going to be there's a little circular ring, so you can have multiple pulse probes, and they're color coded, which will all show up through the Fireboard app, which is kind of fun. So those will connect Bluetooth to the Fireboard, and the Fireboard is connected Wi-Fi, and that goes to the cloud. So it's all relay. The Fireboard essentially acts as a relay or a repeater, I guess is the better word, repeater. So the Fireboard is that central hub where all the information goes up to the cloud.
Somebody's asking, how does the Pulse work with more than 3 probes if you have a Fireboard 2 Pro? The Fireboard 2 only supports 3 ports?
Yeah, so they're asking, the Fireboard Pro is the thermocouple-based Fireboard that we sell.
Yeah, right.
And it has those yellow Type K thermocouple connectors.
Yep.
So there's 3 of those physical connectors, and you can still use those 3 thermocouples if you want, but then you can add, and right now we have it hard-coded, the limits at 32. So you could have 32 of these pulse probes. I'm not sure who needs 32, but
who doesn't?
Yeah, why not? So you could add 32. I think we basically set it at 32 just because there's some memory issues, just the way things are designed. Theoretically, it could be more than that. But anyway, yeah, you could add on with the Fireboard 2. You can add on essentially as many probes as you want. So the wireless probe, there's the only limit is 32, like I mentioned.
Let me regurgitate what I understand. You tell me what's right and what's wrong. Wes, hang out for a little bit because we ran into some tech issues up front in Ted's segment here. I'm just talking to another guest. Normally, I guess what I wasn't able to get over my mental hurdle was I always have my Fireboard 2 outside because I'm using I'm using wired probes because that's how it's always been, whether I'm using the drive or not. Now I can use the wireless probe and the base unit doesn't have to live out there like I'm just thinking right off the top of my head like it has to live out there with a wired connection, which is where now you would get the Bluetooth or you would get the S1G antenna because now you're taking the base station with you if you want to monitor temperature, or you could just leave it there. And I mean, don't most people monitor their Fireboard on their phone?
Yeah. So either way, I think it gives you options.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to just real quick mention. I know you got time constraints because I was my silly Wi-Fi I guess wasn't good enough, but we are also going to launch a product called the Fireboard Bridge. And we're making that public because we want people to know that this whole S1G ecosystem that we're building, this is really more than just these devices that you see. I mean, this ecosystem is going to continue to grow. And the Bridge is a small little device, kind of like a Fireboard, but it doesn't have any probes at all. But it has S1G connectivity, so that 900 megahertz. It also has Wi-Fi and it has Bluetooth. So the Bridge can act more or less as a repeater that can sit inside your house. So any of your S1G devices will be able to carry that signal to the Bridge. The Bridge will be connected Wi-Fi to the cloud. And so that way you don't even have to think about it. You can have your Fireboard inside or outside. If you're running drive, you obviously have to have power there with the Fireboard to run the fan. For those not running drive, the Fireboard can be anywhere. So it kind of gives people some options.
When is the Bridge coming out?
So the Bridge, our goal is to have that out before the holidays. So we're looking at, I'm hoping October, November launch.
What are we looking at cost-wise on the Pulse?
Pulse is $149, which comes with the charger. And the Bridge, just to mention, we don't have things finalized yet, but right now we're aiming at that sub $100 price point on the Bridge. Wow. So that would allow people to get into the whole Fireboard ecosystem in the cloud using all the S1G technology at a lower price point. If people don't already own a Fireboard.
Any discount if we buy 5 at a time?
Yeah, we're going to work up some bundle deals, Greg. And, I think typically, in a bundle, we'll probably work that price down.
Yeah.
We don't have those bundles finalized yet in terms of what the bundle pricing would be. But yeah, there are people that are going to obviously to buy, a handful of these. The other thing that's interesting, it comes with this charger, and we're kind of waiting to see how people really use this and but you can charge this like 10 minutes and it lasts like, 15 hours. So you don't have to have a charger. Potentially, you don't have to have a charger for every single probe,
Yep.
which may allow us to actually sell the probe, an individual probe without a charger at a lower price.
How can we buy? What's the rollout here? Or is it available for sale?
Yep. So the rollout, we are starting to send out invites, and we've prioritized the existing Fireboard customers. So if you are an existing Fireboard customer, stay on the lookout for your email invite. That will give you a code where you can actually pre-order the Pulse. And so we're rolling that out now. It's kind of going out in phases. So if you haven't seen it yet, just stay tuned. So we're kind of doing that pre-order. Eventually the pre-order will open to everyone. And then we're going to start shipping probably late August is our goal. We're close, but I mean, it's just one of those things where, production ramping up and getting all that stuff done. So once that starts, then we're going to open it up after August. Will be wide open just take normal orders on a going forward basis.
Anything else you want to tell us about the Pulse or any other products that are coming up before we let you go here tonight, Ted?
No, Greg, this is fun. We love talking about these products. I mean, I love the technology. We're essentially a technology company that likes barbecue. So we're I love to listen to your show and learn with all the experts about the barbecue, but hopefully, we bring some credibility on the technology side.
Oh yeah.
And it's always fun to share the tech stuff with the audience, with your podcast. So I appreciate the chance to come on here.
And I'm just excited that after years and years of asking that we have something getting ready to roll out that I can get my hands on and try out and really put through the test and give you some feedback and all that fun stuff. So I'll be looking for my invite as well. It's Ted Conrad from Fireboard, the website fireboard.com. Ted, appreciate the insight onto the Pulse, and we'll track you back down to get an update after it rolls out.
Thank you, Greg. I appreciate it.
All right. Take care. Ted Conrad right there, hanging with me as we got through a little technical issue there up front, but luckily the connection firmed up and we got a lot of great information on that new Pulse that is coming out. So stay tuned for that. Again, invite only. So if you've been a long time supporter, it's almost like buying a luxury watch now. Have you been a good customer? Good. Be on the lookout for your invite. You might be able to get your hands on one of the new Fireboard Pulses first. How about that? Fireboard.com/pulse. Wes Wright is ready to go. Let's hang out here just for a few more minutes and we'll come back with you. Are you tired of settling for nonsensical, mediocre grilling experiences? Of course you are. It's time to step your game up.
Step your game up.
Bring the ultimate flavor and cooker to the backyard barbecues. Pits and Spits Charcoal Grills, offering the highest quality live fire cooking experience you can get in the market today using either wood or charcoal. Their solid fuel grills produce those classic flavors you're looking for when you have the time to fire up the grill and cook for family and friends. With a large adjustable fuel tray, you can raise and lower the fire to control and fine-tune the heat. Their take on the very popular Santa Maria style grill. Check them out online, pitsandspits.com/BBQ Central. That's pitsandspits.com/BBQ Central. And don't forget to use the double T on the pits and the spits. And also at checkout, use promo code Charcoal Central, all one word, Charcoal Central, for $150 off any charcoal grill that Pits and Spits is selling. Wes Wright rejoins me here after a month layoff. Stick around. I'll be right back.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Howard Stern, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, and Greg Rempe. The Mountain Rushmore of talk show entertainment. Now, let's get back to the Barbecue Central Show.
This portion of the show being brought to you by Fireboard, of course. Monitor up to 6 different temperatures simultaneously. Connect to Wi-Fi for cloud-based monitoring or via Bluetooth. If you're on the lookout for new products, then you're going to want to check out the Fireboard Pulse, the new wireless thermometer offering, hopefully releasing sometime around the end of next month, but you're going to have to keep your eyes out on your email list to see if you get your invite from Fireboard. Ted Conrad and the gang over there at Fireboard.com. My next guest tonight runs CookOutNews.com's website, the third Tuesday of the month, regular guest here, 35 past the first hour. And we're always talking about the latest news in the live fire industry. Barbecue Central Show's Guest Hall of Fame nominee, Wes Wright, joining us here on the show. Wes, we have a YouTube poll question of the week that we're asking everybody, which is, do you believe that the griddle market will remain a hot one for the balance of 2024, yes or no?
Yes, it's going to stay hot.
All right. Ted Conrad said no. He was taking the contrarian opinion. 25% of people saying no, the overwhelming majority saying yes, they think it's going to remain hot. I want to get right into it with you, which is, we just had Ted Conrad from Fireboard on. He was talking about the new release of the Fireboard Pulse, which is the name of their new wireless thermometer, and it seems like a race between the titans to see who is actually going to be getting their wireless thermometer out first, either ThermoWorks or Fireboard, and it appears at the moment that ThermoWorks might be out here in the next couple weeks, but time will tell on that. What do you know about Fireboard's Pulse, and from whatever you caught from Ted's segment, because I know you were on there on time for your segment, your thoughts about hearing what's involved features and benefits wise?
I like the Pulse. I think kind of the differentiator for me with Fireboard is that they're developing an ecosystem, and I think that's really cool. Where some of their competitors, every product you buy is like a one-off. When you buy from them, the Pulse now, and with the Fireboard 2 and the Spark, they all work together. So every product you get, it's like you already you get something more out of your money. I think it's a cool product.
Are you good with $150 for a probe and a charger?
If I didn't have like a Fireboard 2 or Signals or something like that, I probably would. I think that's a reasonable price. Would it make me want to upgrade? I don't know. That's a harder sell.
Let's talk about wireless thermometers for a second, because over the last handful of years, we've seen a number of wireless thermometers come to market. They've all pretty much sucked. Time will tell on the Fireboard, of course, and the ThermoWorks product. Those two, more than any of the other ones, give me the most hope of a successful product. But let's say for whatever reason they both fall on their face, or they're really not, or they're marginally better than what's existing out there. Do you think you could see a rollback to wires if wireless didn't really take hold here in the next handful of months or year?
Yeah, I think if it'll depend on how well the connectivity works with these products, because like you, I've had negative experiences with wireless thermometers, and I don't find the wires that cumbersome. Like, I think it's a cool product and neat, but especially if you're running a bridge with a wireless probe, you're saving that little wire from one to the other product, but to me, it's not that much of a hassle. I guess with grilling, when you're flipping things, if you're running a wire, wired probe, that's kind of more annoying. But yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with wired probes. So I think if connectivity doesn't prove out, I could see that going back.
I like to figure out where I am in the market, because I'm 50 years old last week. And I remember when I got into barbecue and grilling, I mean, everything was wired. So I look at it as, am I more accepting of wires? Because, for years, Ted from Fireboard was telling me, you just have to deal with the wires. We don't believe that there's a good wireless solution yet. Otherwise, we'd be bringing it to market. So he's telling me just chill out. But then I've only ever come up in a way where there were wires that you were going to have to contend with. And I agree with you. It wasn't that big of a deal. I'm not a big rotisserie guy. I probably should be a bigger rotisserie guy than I am, which is like none. But without something circulating around, no big deal. I didn't really care if there was a wireless thermometer or not. I like asking about it because that seems to be where the technology was trending. But now that we have wireless options, I'm wondering if I was a younger me, if the show was just starting now and I was 25, would I be looking at wires and going, what are we doing here? This is like a printed book, or using a tablet and a pen instead of, taking notes on your iPad or your whatever that other device is that looks like paper that you can write on, but it's all technological. Is there a generational thing here too with that?
Yeah, I don't know. I might be real old school because I have one wired probe, but it connects to a handheld controller. I don't like using my phone too much to continually check temperature. So maybe I'm even older school than that, where the Fireboard apps works well. But
it's great.
I think some of it too is like how new you are to grilling, because I know my experience with a different wireless probe is it felt like they were really into the tech of it. So like beyond the wireless probe, their app was like overly guided and would want you to set up a cook every time. Like you couldn't just pop it in and then read temperatures, and then it would bug you that it would say it's not far enough in the meat or it's too far. And it was like a total hassle because they just made the assumption that you've never, cooked anything in your life. So I don't know if maybe that's the demographic they go for. But I mean, I'm in my 40s, so I'm not too much younger than you, but so if it's generational, I don't really know.
You did an article on Green Mountain Grills recently where they were recommitting, let's say, to a dealer-only sales channel. We've talked about sales of grills on this show more than a number of times, and it seemed like the new model was do what Green Mountain Grills is doing, which is building a dealer network or continuing to build their dealer network through the country. They probably need to regain some relationships that might have been lost over the last 18 months or so because of the things that they were going through, and then continue to grow out with new dealers. But then other people wanted to add a DTC component to that as well, or some type of a hybrid where they can have brick and mortar dealers, but if you wanted to go onto the website, you could go direct to consumer. What is Jason's thought on continuing to stay with a dealer only commitment?
Yeah, the article obviously stemmed out of a conversation I had with Jason about that. And I kind of hadn't thought about it too much, that when you go DTC that you're kind of competing with your distribution channel, like you want people to buy through them, obviously, but you make better margin if they buy directly from you. So you're more incentivized to sell, DTC. So he had some strong feelings that, companies shouldn't do that. They should support their existing dealer models rather than straight out compete against them. And he was really passionate about just making sure that, he supported the dealer network. He controls national advertising for them and promotes the product, but then funnels all those sales through the dealers themselves, which to me makes a lot of sense for what they're doing and what their product is. I think it's a good model for them.
Is it a bit of an old school model, or do you think more companies are just trying to figure out every way to get in front of a customer to be available for sale?
Yeah, I think it is old school, completely. It seems like every grill company wants to be D2C because it's, the margins are so good there. You cut out, up to a third of a commission, a third of your sales. So, that's a model that people want to go to without getting too saturated, because then you miss out on some advertising from people being able to see it locally. But yeah, it's, I for sure, that's the way that business used to be done with local mom and pops.
Did he mention when the grills were going to be available for sale, or what his inventory level is like right now?
It sounded like it. I can't remember any like hard numbers, but he said that they were healthy and products were coming soon. So it everything that I had heard about it and written about seemed like it was, true as far as timelines are concerned.
I had noticed that, I'm always forgetting what their name, Vista Outdoor, the
Vista
Camp
Outdoor.
Chef.
Yeah, that one's,
is Vista,
yeah.
Were they the manufacturer of Camp Chef, or Vista sold the manufacturing of Camp Chef? How did that work out?
Yeah, people are probably so sick of me writing about that. It just seems like there's endless on it. But Vista Outdoor, they own they used to be part of Smith and Wesson a long time ago, and they have like a shooting sport segment, an arm called the Kinetic Group, and then they have Camp Chef and like Camelback, and some other like golfing stuff. And so all these outdoor brands that are going to go under a separate umbrella, and they're selling either just that shooting sport, or there's another company that keeps actively trying to buy out the whole company. But what will likely happen is they'll sell their shooting business to a Czechoslovakian company, and then the Camp Chef will go into Revelist, which will be publicly traded. And the idea there is, from the sale of the other half, like $250 million gets put into R&D and promoting those brands. And that's supposed to happen this month, but it's kind of contentious, and there's some investors that are against it, some that are either boards for it. So, we'll see what happens with all that.
In the meantime, what do we think about Camp Chef as a legitimate pellet cooker? They're still holding their own?
I think their Woodwind Pro is really cool.
Yeah.
They came out, I think it was last year or a year and a half ago.
I think it's been longer than that.
Has it?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. I think summer, fall of, yeah. So you're probably right. But, I think that still holds up. I think it's a cool product. There's not much else that can compete with it in terms of smoke. I've seen it used in person. But I don't know if it's from the sale. I don't feel like they've come out with too much since then, though. They came out with a griddle that had a little design and like a grease trough in the front. Beyond that, I can't think of anything else they did. I mean, I don't know. What are your thoughts? Where's their place in the market?
I thought they were going to be the next big thing, and then they came up like a house of fire. That Woodwind Pro was really cool, and then it seems like they hit the pause button. I don't know if there was, with all the internal struggling that was going on with a bunch of the other stuff, if that threw a wrench into the mix, or if they just stopped introducing or refreshing or whatever you want to call it. But if you wouldn't have told me anything about Camp Chef over the last 2 years, I probably would have said they went out of business.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. A sale process takes up tons of time, but they're one of the companies that Vista Outdoor, they fired their CEO through all the grill craziness. And then they also in 2021, at the end of the year, they bought a pellet mill manufacturer called Fiber Energy Products. So I'm sure they paid a premium for it given the timing. I want to say it was like $48 million, something like that. And they announced last week that they sold that. So they, bought that and kept it for a couple of years and sold it. So, I think they're just trying to get through this sale of their company and see what happens, is my thoughts. But, they do have cool products though. So I hope something good comes from it.
I think last month we touched on the Z Grill promotion. A month later, I still see a lot of social media advertising about it. You know anybody that's actually taken advantage of it?
I do not. I've never heard of anyone that's done it.
I ran the YouTube poll question of the week a couple weeks ago. Did you take advantage of the Z Grill's promotion? And 100% of people said that they did not. take advantage. I was shocked. I mean, for $777 for the potential of having a new grill every 5 years for 50 years, it seemed like the juice might be worth the squeeze, if I said that right. But I don't know. I'd asked James Howe last week very covertly, if you're going to be somebody that takes advantage of that, what's the real expectation that they're really going to pay off all the way through it? And he seemed to be 50-50. He was a little bit more tempered on, he was a little bit more bullish on the fact that he thought they might pay off more than not, but always comes back with caveat emptor, of course. So what do you think? Do you think you sign up for it, you're going to see those line of grills every 5 years for the next 50, or should you be happy if you get half that amount?
Yeah, I think if you get, I'll say 3 grills out of it, that's a pretty good deal. You know, that's 50 years is a long time. You know, that's, what, Brig Green Eggs, 60? Is that what it is? 60 years?
Yeah.
So, and they've been around forever. Expecting Z Grills to be around for the next 50 is kind of seems like a tall ask.
Any big stories that you're working on that you want to tease?
I've got some reviews coming up that some products I really liked, and then I've got an interview with Tom Penner, who runs all of W.C. Bradley's grill brands. That should be out in the coming weeks. So, just stay tuned.
CookOutNews.com is the website, and on the third Tuesday of the month, 35 past the first hour, you see this guy right here on this show. It's Wes Wright. Wes, always appreciate the time, and we will see you in August.
Great. Thanks, Greg.
You got it. Our pal Wes Wright. We got through the whole segment right there. No problem. Smokin' Joe was real early, taking in the fun and frivolity of the show, of course. He's due up in about 15 minutes or so. All right, so we're a little late. We'll catch you. I got to stop that. Yeah. Play a little catch up with the clock here and get in the second hour. So before we do that, we will wrap the first hour. Stick around. Be right back.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Continuing to produce incredibly mediocre content in an exceptionally professional way. You're listening and watching the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
And we thank Wes Wright for joining us last segment. CookOutNews.com, his website. Make sure that you sign up for the weekend refuel when you go there as well. Every Saturday morning. Sunday? I think it's Saturday. You get an email in your inbox, recaps all the top stories that Wes has been writing on. Maybe you missed some stuff, you were out of town on a vacation, whatever. This reminds you to head on over to the website and check out all the other stuff that he didn't even mention in the weekend refuel. Our pal Wes Wright at CookOutNews.com. So that brings a close to the first hour. If you missed it, don't worry. We'll tell you about how you can go about listening to that here in a few short minutes. In the meantime, you refresh your libations, and we are headed to the second hour. Stick around. We'll be right back.